Today we're talking about comics and independent creators and how you yourself can get out there and start drawing panels and create your own fantasy world that you can live within. I just talked to Alexander, and now with me we have Josh Dahl in the studio. I pronounce your last name right?
That is correct.
Solid. So let's hear for Josh in the studio, everybody. Thank you for coming in. Handshakes. I shake hands. I'm very professional. Alexander will double shake hands, and I'll shake your hand at the same time. Thank you. This three-way handshake here on DIY. That's the kind of quality content we give you every fucking time. So like I asked Alexander, killer origin story is always something I love in a superhero. For you as a comic book creator, what would you say is your origin, and where are you at now?
My origin, I always wrote comics. The first story I ever remember writing, in maybe kindergarten, I drew it out as panels. Origin moment. I've told this story on a podcast before, and I'll be brief because it's dark and grim.
Yeah.
But
we love dark and grim though. But.
A good friend of mine had a girlfriend drop dead while Christmas shopping, and I'm on the phone with her and blah blah, and the thing I took away from it was, holy shit, I have to do comics right now.
Yeah.
Anyone and everyone I know could be dead tomorrow. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Have to do it right now.
See, I think that's really good motivation, is the fear of death that you have to create. I think that's the fear of death has caused you to be a stronger creator. And I mean, what better motivator is there than that? I mean, look what Thanos does, loving death as much as he does. Sorry, that was a weird segue out of that.
There's no normal segues.
There's no normal
segues. Died, man.
I'm sorry. But it caused you to be a great comic book creator, and kind of that's where a lot of that comes from. And unfortunately, tragedy is tied in an everyday part of life. We all have our own traumas and problems. But I want to ask you, you've obviously come a long way since then. What are some of your most successful works, and what are you creating right now?
My biggest thing is Rapid City Below Zero. It's a supervillain revenge drama.
Nice.
It's a gritty crime comic set within a supervillain underworld. All the main characters are supervillains.
Nice.
I love it.
Yeah.
People seem to react to it well.
Yeah.
Artist Sean Langley continues to kill it.
Yeah.
What was the rest of your question?
Any other works you're working on now? The main one?
Yeah, I'm also working on Skies Over Superior.
Okay.
www.skiesoversuperior.com.
Check it. We'll flash something.
With artist Laura Burrell.
Yeah.
That's I call it a monster adventure story about a teenager in northern Michigan who discovers mythical creatures are crossing Lake Superior to destroy mankind.
Wow.
And she has to find a way to stop them.
That's awesome. That's a super cool story. I love that. So now with Rapid City, is there sort of a reflection inward? Is there sort of characters you're bringing from yourself out there? Do you sort of put yourself on the page?
Yeah. Everything I write is a true story about me.
Yeah.
And I just find a way to tweak it into something else. Both of those examples are a little bit further from my actual experience than a lot of the other stuff I've written. But it's when I'm writing a scene, when I'm writing character, when I'm figuring something out, it's figuring out what's my point of view on this, where am I in this story, and then telling it.
See, I think that's important, because I think what makes a good character, or at least a good story, is when someone takes real life experiences and ties them into classic tropes and sort of allows it to sort of change the norm or what is expected as a viewer, whatever whoever's ingesting the media. You know what I mean? Right. Now, do you find it hard building all these characters up and kind of switching perspectives, like going from one world to another? Is that anything like that?
I do a little. One of my weaknesses as a writer, through my first drafts, all the characters kind of react and talk the same. They're all just kind of standard Josh character.
Yeah.
And so that's always in my my revisions and my second draft to go through and go, okay, well, this person is a little more selfish in this scene, so I have to go through, or this person thinks more quickly and speaks a lot, and this person thinks slowly, and then that's when I go through and sort of massage them into hopefully not just a bunch of me's standing on the page.
Exactly. Because I think that does become an issue for some creators sometimes, where you get too reflective and there's only so many slices you can do of your own personality. Now, when it comes to sort of creating a comic and sort of putting it out there, one of the things I love about comics, and one of the things I think a lot of people love about comics, is that it's the one medium between books and films. Like, so I really think of it as sort of being in between, like, reading something and seeing something. So you read the words, you're seeing the actions, and then you're tying in between the panels. I think that's the real strength. Now, are you very aware of that? Do you sort of try to, like, I mean, you're the writers, but you still are writing out what the panels are.
Uh-huh.
Do you sort of kind of keep that in the front of your mind to sort of flesh that in between, create that action, that suspense?
At some point in my creative process with everything, I'm thinking, why is this a comic?
Yeah.
What can a comic do with this scene and this moment and this thing? Why isn't this a movie? Why isn't this a novel? Why isn't this a who knows what?
Yeah.
And, some things, if the scene has to show how the characters are getting from point A to point B, that might just be they get into a car and drive. And that might be the same. Like, it could be that there's not anything special about a comic for that moment. But if throughout it, there's nothing comic special, then I had an idea for a comic dealing with Trump's America and military and some other stuff. And the more I thought about it, the more it just turned into a novel.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to figure out how to write a novel, which is I didn't realize it would be such a weird transition from writing comics.
Yeah. No, there's a lot more involved.
But yeah, it's
a lot more words.
A lot more words. So let me ask the both of you. I always like to ask, we're getting close to the end of the interview. I always like to ask my guests, for starting out creators, starting out artists, what's like a piece of advice you'd give them starting out? Alexander, you've been kind of sitting off to the side, so I'll ask you for
an interview.
I know. But
I'd actually ask you to give your advice to starting out people, and give it to me, please.
Okay. Oh boy.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. First of all, don't make comics. It's really super hard.
Yep.
Well, okay. Let's imagine I already haven't taken that advice.
Okay, that's the first barrier you have to cross. If
Okay.
you hear the advice to don't make comics and you go, thank God, then then we're better off without each other. So then the second is read a lot about making comics. Even if it's kind of bad advice, go buy books on making comics, read blogs on making comics, just take it in. The thing that grinds my gears when I'm talking to young comic creators and things like that are the people who, the example I always give is people who go, I've been in a lot of buildings, I bet I could be an architect. It's not, you can't learn to make comics by reading comics.
No.
You can learn to read comics by reading comics. You can learn to read your comics and say blah, 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 blah. But in order to make comics, you have to understand this is a separate thing. It has separate tools and skills.
Yeah.
Figure out what they are and develop those skills.
That makes a lot of sense. And even if it's like one sentence from a blog, that's it. That's very good. That's very good advice. So now I ask everybody else this, Josh. Now I'm going to let you, last question here. Favorite superhero?
We were talking about Daredevil earlier, but I'm going to go with Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. See, I said earlier, I was saying Spider-Man is the greatest of all time. He's the greatest superhero of all time. That is my official stance. He's got the best origin stories. He's got the best supervillains. He's got the best everything.
He likes wheat cakes.
He likes wheat cakes. He shoots webs out of his hands. He's got the best love interests. He's just the best. Spider-Man is the GOAT, and if you got a problem with that, you can fight me. You can fight Josh. Alexander will be there to back us up, maybe,
He's got the best costume. He's got the best origin. He's got the
best
best
alternative
villains.
versions. I don't give a fuck that you're trying to wrap me up, guys. Let me talk about fucking Spider-Man for 30 seconds, please.